This tutorial is to show you how to do a GIF from Illustrator to Photoshop. So we're going to start in Illustrator and we're going to go under the web menu and pick something relatively small. So I did the 480 by 640 and set up artboards. You're going to want one artboard per frame for your animation. And so I started with 9 and I'm just doing a really simple quick illustration, thinking about what's going to transition between each frame. You can do a lot of copying and pasting from one artboard to another. Your goal is to have things kind of centered here, and you'll see me at the end. I'll kind of go back through and try and group everything and center everything to limit the jumpiness in my animation. So I just picked something really simple that I could go through. It's super sped up, as you can see, and thinking about what's going to change, what is going to move, what's not going to move, what do I want to stay the same. And so as you're doing yours and you're thinking about transformation, hopefully yours will be a little more advanced and sophisticated than mine in this example. And you can do as many frames as you want. You can do as little frames. I asked for a minimum of 9 in the presentation, so that's what I did here. And you'll see I kind of went through and made a cycle, and so I ended up kind of pulling back for my originals and changing those so that it was kind of like a loop through, because that's what the frames are going to do when we draw them or when we animate them. And once you have all of your frames ready, you can save your file as an AI file and then go open Photoshop. In Photoshop, you're going to set up your new file with those pixels that we figured out. So I did this 640 by 480. I'm going to change my workspace to motion because that'll bring up my timeline and just have the panels kind of set for what we're doing a little bit better. And then we want to start copying and pasting from Illustrator into Photoshop. We're not going to use file place. We're going to use copy and paste, Command C, Command V from one to the other. And you notice it's going to ask you how you want to paste it as. You want to keep that a smart object, but I highly suggest unchecking that add to library. That crashed my computer and took forever, and I had to cancel it, and it was stuck in the spinning. So uncheck that box, but you want to keep it as a smart object, and every time you paste a new thing into Photoshop, it's going to create a new layer. And so that's what you want. You want to kind of stack those layers and go in order so that your frames go in order. And you're going to just put them right on top of each other. And so that way you won't get that jumpiness, and you'll get a new layer with each one. And once you're done with adding all of your layers, you are going to rename them just to make things easier. You can do this as you go too, and make sure they're all in order just so you know what you're kind of doing. And then we're going to transition into creating the actual frames. And so then we're going to turn everything off except for the first frame. And you want to create a frame animation, which is at the bottom of the timeline. And what that's going to do is going to give you one frame to start. And then how it works is that each of those frames, whatever's visible in your layers is what shows on the frame at that time. And so what you're going to do is you're going to start with that 1 and then click the new button for the new frame at the bottom of that timeline bar at the bottom of your screen. And when you turn when you give it a new frame, you turn off your first layer, which is your first frame, and turn on your second one. And then you just go through that process. And so each frame that you add is going to be a new visibility on your layers. And you'll notice I have that first layer is empty and the first frame is empty, and I want that for that pause. You may or may not for your animation. And then you're going to go through, and then you're probably, most of you are going to want to cycle back your loop. And so you'll see me, now that I went through my first 9, I'm going back and turning on and off as I kind of come back down my layers. And so that way my tree is going to grow, and then it's going to stop growing. It's gonna kind of grow backwards in time, and I'm gonna loop it. And so when you hit where it says the kind of play once, you can change that to loop forever, which is what you want for most of our GIFs. You don't want it to stop. And then you can practice with it and see what time you like. So you can adjust those 0.1, 0.3, however much you want to do. And so when I did my loop, I didn't like how that looked going back in my animation. And so I deleted those and I just had it keep growing. And so I kind of altered my setup a little bit more. So you're going to play with it and see how do you want your animation to look. And when you have it the way you want it, you're going to save it a special way. So you're going to go to File, Export, Save for Web as Legacy. You want to limit your colors. So I only used one color, so I limited mine a lot. The recommendation is 32 colors or less. And then you want to just save it. You can preview it right in that window like I did, and then you could save it as a GIF. To be able to play it, you need to, if you just double click it, it's just going to open it like a preview. It's not going to actually be animated, but you can right click and do open with and use an internet browser. So I used Chrome, and that way it showed me how it will play as an animated GIF. Ta-da!